Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala wa ba'd. Another shubha that we'll discuss at this point is an issue that Abu Usaama has mentioned concerning Salafi publications, and that is that he claims, he and his like, claim that Salafi publications work with double standards. And that is a shubha. The intent behind it, no doubt, is to turn the people away from Salafi publications or from the Salafis in general, because of the fact that they are two-faced. They are people who are hypocritical in terms of their methodology and how they work. Yani, if you're with them, then they won't speak against you, but if you're against them, then they will exaggerate in refutation of you. That is a shubha and a doubt that is used by Ahlul Bid'ah throughout time. And that shubha, ikhwan, is either based upon pure kadhib, yani 100% fabrication, or it is based in half-truths. And that is that there may be some truth behind some of what is being said, but then that fraction of truth is mixed with a mountain of lies and a mountain of untruths. But because of the fact that you recognize that something from that was correct and something from that was true, then you'll accept that perhaps the rest of the statement, the part that we don't know, that is true also. And that, of course, is the most convincing and the most effective. Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, though, are not affected again, ikhwan, by those fabrications. Even if half-truths are presented, we still seek affirmation of the portion of those statements that we don't know of. We still seek affirmation of the full picture. And that, brothers and sisters, is based upon the qawaid that we have in our deen. Our deen, ikhwan, establishes for us the affair of tathabbut, of affirming and of ascertaining narrations, of ascertaining that which is being said, particularly if it revolves around an accusation. That if somebody is being accused of something, then we do not accept, ikhwan, in the likes of those accusations, half-truths. Or we do not accept portions of a narration that we may believe, some of it because of the fact that we may have had some experience that affirms that portion. And on the basis of that, then we accept the rest of what is being said because it is probably true anyway. And it is probably congruent with the first part of the narration that we accept. And that, ikhwan, is no doubt an evil methodology, an evil manhaj. Ahlus Sunnah, as we mentioned, ikhwan, work with tathabbut and don't make accusations until those narrations are affirmed. But as we mentioned, the half-truth is probably the most effective because you'll win the most people over with the half-truth. As it relates to the affair of hiwar and debate, and as it relates, ikhwan, to making rad of the mukhalif, then Ahlus Sunnah never work with half-truths. Because Ahlus Sunnah, ikhwan, make a rad on the basis of what they see to be haqq, and they repel what they know to be batil. And they don't play about with the minds of the people. Rather, we work with the haqq, and if it isn't haqq, ikhwan, then we leave it alone. Bihamdillah. Similarly, as it relates to hiwar and as it relates to debating, when we're debating an individual, one of the principles that our scholars mention, ikhwan, as it relates to debate, is affirming and establishing agreed upon premises. That is, if I'm going to debate with you, and I see you from Ahlus Sunnah, but I believe that you have some issues that we differ about that I believe I'm more correct in, then we first and foremost agree, or we come to agreed upon premises, that we in fact ascertain the agreed upon premises, and on the basis of those agreed upon premises we argue off the back of those agreed upon premises. Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran utilizes that methodology with the people of kufr and with the disbelievers, that Allah Azza wa Jal reminds them of that which they will not dispute or will not reject, and then on the basis of that establishes the folly or off the back of that, establishes the folly of that which they do believe in and that which they worship and that which they follow. So it is perchance that Abu Usaama is trying to establish a premise by way of these statements, trying to establish a premise that he believes that we'll agree upon or agree with him upon them. That, well, you work with Ahlul Bid'ah, you've done it in the past, and so why debate with us, or why have a problem with us? You work with the kuffar and do such and such, and you do it as well, so why do you have a problem with us? And that, no doubt, Ikhwan, indicates the weakness of the argument of these people. When the only dalil, or when the only rad that we have is we do it, but you do it too. When the only evidence that we can use is we do it, but you do it too. When that is our only evidence, Ikhwan, then no doubt, bi's ad-dalil. That is an evil piece of evidence, Ikhwan, and it is a feeble piece of evidence that is only accepted by the fickle and by shallow individuals who are murking or hunting and fishing in murky waters, seeking anything that will repel these individuals that we dislike. And so, Ikhwan, as Ahlus Sunnah constantly mention, Al-Haq Dalatul Mu'min. The Haq is the last possession of the Mu'min. Wherever he finds it, he has the most right to it. So first and foremost, Ikhwan, for us to accept the argument, we have to accept the premise that we do it, and so have you in the past. So you shouldn't have a problem with us. That premise in and of itself, Ikhwan, is not accepted by us. It is rejected. Because those things that you accuse us of are either things that we have not done, and that it is an outright kadhib and lie, or that there is an element of truth, or it is a resemblance, or it resembles your statement. But upon analysis, we see that the reality is very different to what you claim. Abu Usaama makes a number of accusations against Salafi publications, that they have sought assistance from the kuffar, financial assistance from the kuffar, or he's made accusations against me personally, that the work I do with my organization, Inner City Guidance, has in it kufr and shirk. And other than that, from the claims, Ikhwan, that are made, or that I have sat with Ahlul Bid'ah on a forum or on a platform together with Ahlul Bid'ah giving da'wah. And other than that, Ikhwan, from the kadhib and from the outright lies that has come from this individual. For example, he makes the following statement.
It is well established in the public domain that you yourselves, you get financial assistance from kuffar.
Just to repeat that statement.
It is well established. It is well established in the public domain that you yourselves, you get financial assistance from kuffar.
Again.
It is well established in the public domain that you yourselves, you get financial assistance from kuffar.
Where is it well established, Abu Usaama, in the public domain that Salafi publications gets financial assistance from the kuffar? Establish that for us. Establish for us that Salafi publications receive financial assistance from the kuffar. Wallahi kadhib. Wallahi kadhib. And this is the type of lie and fabrication and falsehood that Abu Usaama hopes the people will accept. That Salafi publications receives financial assistance from the kuffar. Where? When? How? In which format? That which we can raise our heads and say, Ikhwan, is that Salafi publications was built by the shabab and built by the youth of the community. Was built, Ikhwan, on the basis of the sweat that was on the brow of the shabab as-Salafi, It is a Salafi community that is established, whether it be the masjid is Salafi, or whether it be our madrasa, yani with the sweat on the brow of the male and female shabab and the male and female Salafis of our community, that has established the khair that we have, bihamdillah, today. And we have done it, bihamdillah, ikhwan, without assistance from any government or from any jam'iyyah. Bihamdillah. And that is, ikhwan, not a non-Muslim government or a Muslim government for that matter. We've done it without handouts, ikhwan. But yet still, ikhwan, this individual rises and makes the types of statements that he hopes will be accepted. It is well established in the public domain. Where in the public domain is it well established that Salafi publications receives assistance from kuffar? Where? كذب. ليش تكذب يا أخي? So the premise in and of itself, we do not accept. Yani we do it, you do it as well, so leave us alone. He claims, for example, that I likewise have given da'wah with Ahlul Bid'ah and sat on the same forum as Ahlul Bid'ah, and that there is kufr and that there is shirk in that which is in the work that I do. He mentions
the thing that the brother Abu Hakeem had, the inner city program that he had, trying to help the community. Inshaa'Allah, inshallah, it comes under the same thing that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah said. I don't know what's going on because I saw some stuff in there where there was kufr and shirk. I saw some cooperative efforts in there. When I looked at it, it wasn't sanctioned by al-Islam.
So we have ikhwan, a contradiction in terms, subhanallah. He mentions that which is related to the statement of Shaykh al-Islam as it relates to working with the people of bid'ah or working with the people of kufr, if what is established is in accordance with the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal and the rights of Allah Azza wa Jal, and the things that are to be honored by way of the deen or in the deen are honored and that they are established, then it's permissible to work alongside them. So he mentions inner city guidance that Abu Hakeem has. It falls under this. Yeah, and it falls under this a permissible premise that Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah mentions. And you'll remember in some of the earlier parts, we discussed the actual quotation wherein Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he mentions, as does Ibn al-Qayyim, the permissibility of working in the realms of that which is in accordance with what pleases Allah Azza wa Jal, even if it means you work alongside the kuffar, the statement that he quotes. And so here he says that the inner city guidance that Abu Hakeem has, it, inshaAllah, falls under the premise and falls under that which Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah mentions. Yani that which has in it khair. In the same breath, he mentions in it is kufr and shirk. In it is kufr and shirk. Establish for us again the kufr and shirk that you have or that you have observed within it. Establish for us the kufr and shirk.
Pushing some of the stuff, you're apologizing and acquiescing, but how is it that many of the Muslims,
that's one statement, and then he makes another statement here.
Why is it okay for Abu Hakeem? Why is it okay for him to sit as it has been documented with Sufis and all of these other people, but it's not okay if someone from Green Lane made that mistake in the past before the people who are in charge right now are in charge?
And so why is it okay for Abu Hakeem to sit with Sufis and these people, as has been documented? And that, no doubt, again, ikhwan, is a reference to a lecture that I delivered, a lecture that was given. My organization, or I on behalf of the organization, was invited to give a lecture that would be attended by a number of individuals from the city. The Lord Mayor lectured on that day. The chief of, or the head of West Midlands Police lectured on that day. We had the heads of a few other organizations who lectured on that day. The head of Equalities and Diversity in West Midlands or Birmingham City Council lectured on the same day. And the lectures revolved around public safety and community safety. The lecture, Ikhwan, I attended, and I sought the permission of Sheikh Falah prior to the lecture, because I knew that people would try and play with it. Sheikh said, no, go. Let them see how the Salafis work with the community and how they are concerned about community safety and about social affairs and so on. Go. And so I went. I delivered my lecture. And alhamdulillah, from the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is I sat on a table with the presence of someone who is close to Abu Usaama himself. And the whole of the lecture, I sat beside this brother. We spoke. They called me to deliver my lecture. The lecture was delivered at a microphone, one microphone, no platform or stage, one microphone. I walked over to the microphone, delivered my lecture. I sat back at my table, finished my tea, and left. Now, the ironic thing about that lecture was I was actually not supposed to deliver the lecture at all. Rather, someone else was supposed to deliver the lecture. And what occurred, Ikhwan, after I delivered the lecture, there were individuals from the press who were present. What's apparent is that one of them must have took my picture. And then those pictures were strung together and spliced together and placed in the Daily Jung. The Daily Jung, for those of you who don't know, one of the Asian newspapers that is distributed here in England. The Daily Jung made mention of, I believe, something that they attributed to me. But in any case, the statement, Ikhwan, or my lecture revolved around the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ala inna fil jasadi mudgha, idha salahat salaha al jasadu kullu, wa idha fasadat fasada al jasadu kullu, ala wa hiya al qalb." Indeed, in the body there is a morsel. If it is sound, the whole of the body is sound. If it is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt, and it is the heart. And the lecture I delivered, after completing or finishing the lecture, as I mentioned, I left. The Daily Jung took that picture that they took of me, spliced it alongside the other attendees and the other individuals who delivered on that day, though the event was not a da'wah event. But I use it as an opportunity to give da'wah. In any case, my picture was spliced alongside that and placed in the Daily Jung. But as I mentioned, Ikhwan, I wasn't supposed to give that lecture. That lecture, in actuality, the original lecturer was one by the name of Abu Usaama Khaleefah Dhahabi. He was actually supposed to give that lecture. But they refused at the last minute on the basis of obvious dispatches issues. He was prevented from giving the lecture. I was invited in his place, which I learned later, but I was invited in his place. I delivered the lecture and I left. Now, had Abu Usaama given that lecture, you would not have heard from these people other than, MashaAllah, Abu Usaama brings the da'wah to the kuffar. MashaAllah, Abu Usaama addresses even the Lord Mayor and the Chief of Police with the ahadith of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. MashaAllah, Abu Usaama brings the da'wah of the Anbiya to the city, and. But because it was Abu Hakeem, why is it okay for Abu Hakeem to sit with Sufis? And wallahi, thumma billahi, and the brother who was next to me will bear witness. The brother who is in charge of the community affairs and the section that receives the handouts from the government that Abu Usaama is talking about within Green Lane. The handouts that he accuses us of. And you know that I know. The handouts that he accuses us, yani Salafi publications, of taking, that he himself, or that section within Green Lane, the brother who was beside me, he's in charge of the whole section. Him accusing Salafi publications or those who are affiliated with Salafi publications of taking money for extremism, while his brother is in charge of that department within Green Lane. In any case, the brother will bear witness to the fact that I gave my lecture, delivered my lecture, and left. Now, again, we have another example of the type of half-truth that as long as no one really investigates the affair, then we'll leave it, and hopefully some people will accept it. He claims there is kufr and shirk within some of the work that I do. Well, I would like him to establish the kufr and shirk that he's speaking of. Perhaps he's speaking about the hacked website that I once had, that I believe one of his associates had actually dabbled with. Hacked it, ikhwan, to the extent that you click on a link, it goes through to a site that deals with gay rights. You click on another link, it goes through to a site that deals with rights for transsexuals. Click on a third link, it deals with rights for transgender people and what have you. Any individual, ikhwan, who has any inkling of what Abu Hakeem has been on for the past 2 decades will know there is no way that is attributed to me, and that can be attributed to me. But when we have, again, people who fish in murky waters, then they'll play these type of games. And it doesn't in any way surprise me that someone would do that to that website. And for that reason, I pulled the whole website down. But in any case, ikhwan, these are the type of games that these individuals play. And no doubt it is ironic that they should play the likes of these games when they and Abu Usaama at the head of them call for justice and balance from the top of their voices day and night. If the brothers were just, if they were balanced, and those who were just and those who were balanced, justice and balance. And know, ikhwan, that as Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah has mentioned, this call of justice and this accusation of injustice against the people of Sunnah is actually the first manifestation of bid'ah that took place in the beginnings of this ummah, and it was the Messenger of Allah ﷺ that was accused of it. Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah mentions أول البدع ظهورا في الإسلام وأظهرها ذما في السنة والآثار بدعة الحرورية المارقة، فإن أولهم قال للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في وجهه اعدل يا محمد فإنك لم تعدل، وأمر النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بقتلهم وقتالهم وقاتلهم أصحاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. That indeed the first bid'ah that appeared within Islam, and the most apparent bid'ah in terms of dispraising the sunnah and narration, is the bid'ah of the Haruriyya al-Mariqa, yani the bid'ah of the Khawarij. فَإِنَّ أَوَّلَهُمْ, for indeed the beginning of them said in the face, or the first of them, Afwan, said in the face of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, be just, ya Muhammad, because indeed you're not just. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded with fighting them and fighting against them, the Khawarij. And then Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he said, after discussing something from their characteristics, he said, وَلَهُمْ خَاصَتَانِ مَشْهُورَتَانِ فَارَقُوا بِهِمَا جَمَاعَةُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ وَأَئِمَّتَهُمْ. He said that indeed they have two specific characteristics that are well known and are mashhur, popular, or they are popular for, and they have opposed the jama'ah of the Muslims and their imams on the basis of them. One of them, خُرُوجُهُمْ عَلِ السُّنَّةِ, is them leaving the sunnah, وَجَعْلُهُمْ مَا لَيْسَ بِسَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةً وَمَا لَيْسَ بِحَسَنَةٍ حَسَنَةً، وَهَذَا هُوَ الَّذِي أَظْهَرُوهُ فِي وَجْهِ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said the first of them is them leaving the sunnah and them making what is not evil something evil. Yani them turning something that isn't evil into something evil. وَمَا لَيْسَ بِحَسَنَةٍ حَسَنَةً. And that which is not good, they turn it into something hasana and something good. And this was what they made manifest in the face of the Messenger ﷺ when Dhul Khuwaysira al-Tamimi said to him, "I'dil, فَإِنَّكَ لَمْ تَعْدِلْ." He said, be just because indeed you have not been just. And so the Messenger ﷺ said to him, woe, yani woe to you. Who will be just if I am not just? You indeed will be destroyed if I am not just. So the first of the claims that these individuals made was the claim of the injustice of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Then Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he went on to mention, and so his statement, i'dil amrun lahu bima i'taqadahu huwa hasana من القسمة التي لا تصلح وهذا الوصف تشترك فيه البدعة المخالفة للسنة فقائلها لا بد أن يثبت ما نفته السنة وينفي ما أثبتته السنة ويحسن ما قبحته السنة أو يقبح ما حسنته السنة. He mentions that indeed this statement i'dil is a command with that which he believed to be good from the divisions of the spoils of war. And this characteristic he mentions, the people of bid'ah are or join in with him in that, yani with Dhul Khuwaysira, and that is them opposing the sunnah. He said because the one who makes that statement, it is a must that he affirms what was negated by the sunnah, or that he negates what was affirmed by the sunnah, or he makes and deems as good that which the sunnah makes ugly, and he makes ugly that which the sunnah deems as good. He said, وَإِلَّا لَمْ يَكُنْ بِدْعَةً. He said, otherwise there wouldn't be any bid'ah whatsoever. Yani if that were not the case with the people of innovation and the people of bid'ah, then there would be no bid'ah. And that Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah mentioned in volume 9, page 19 rather, page 71 of Majmu' al-Fatawa to 72. And so, Ikhwan, this all of these accusations of double standards, if we were to take them one by one, the claim that they made against Shaykh Rabi' hafidhahullah, that he said, why is it okay for Shaykh Rabi' to sit with people of bid'ah and kufr and again, Ikhwan, na'am, the Shaykh went to that conference. But did the Shaykh just sit down as these individuals do and smile in the face of the people of bid'ah, give a general lecture and then leave and confuse the people? La wallah. Shaykhana, he made radd against them, and he went for the purpose of refuting them, and that is well documented and that is well established. The Shaykh went, na'am, he spoke against them, he refuted them and clarified that ijtima, coming together, is not except upon the rope of Allah Azza wa Jal, upon the kitab and the sunnah, and that which the salaf of this ummah were upon. And that is well documented. And so again we see ikhwan examples of these half-truths. Why is it okay for the Shaykh but it's not okay for anybody else? And that is what is well documented. But when we hear him mentioning it is well documented, what is he talking about? What is Abu Usaama talking about? He's talking about the daily jung. As it relates to the issue with myself, he's talking about that which is documented in the daily jung. Now that becomes a source and a reference for him. But he dislikes when the Sunday Mercury is quoted upon him, or about him, or in reference to him. He dislikes that and refutes that which they document. But it is okay for you to quote another one of those media sources, the Daily Jung, when you're dealing with your enemy. So who is it that is the one that goes against the evidence, or goes against the advice that you yourself give? Who is the one that is working with double standards? And so, Ikhwan, Ahlus Sunnah are not deceived or beguiled by this foolishness. Ahlus Sunnah bihamdillah work with strong, firm principles, firm qawaid that Allah Azza wa Jal has blessed them to be upon. And on the basis of them, they are not confused by foolishness. And they are not taken by that which the shallow-minded, fickle individuals may be taken by. But those of you who are sincere and look into the issue correctly, then you will see, ikhwan, example after example after example of the deception, of the fabrication, of the lies, and of the half-truths that this individual uses against the Salafiyun, whether here in Birmingham or elsewhere, across England or across the globe. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to protect us from the likes of this li'b and the likes of these game playing with the manhaj al-Salafi al-Sahih al-Mubarak. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabina Muhammad wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.